الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be starting a new chapter within this beautiful book, Buloogh al Maram, by Imam al-Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah ta'ala. And we're starting the chapter of Babu Salat al-Istisqa. So this is a new chapter for us. And we're going to begin by talking a little bit about the title. So, istisqa. Whenever you hear an Arabic word that begins ista, it has a long, and it starts with ista, and then, or isti, and then it continues on. This is usually related to the meaning of requesting something. So, for example, you have a lot of words in Arabic like that. Istifsar, asking for, asking someone to explain it to you, asking for a tafsir, asking someone to explain it for you, istifsar, and so on. All of these different Arabic words that you have that start ista or isti, that mean to request or ask for something. So what are we requesting for when we say istisqa? We're requesting as-suqya. As-suqya. So istisqa, it means requesting as-suqya, requesting for the rain to come, or seeking for the rain to come, for water to be provided. As-suqya is to be provided with water. And the reason we are, or what we are asking for when we make istisqa, is we're asking for nuzul al-matar, for the rain to come down. And that is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the rain a mercy for all people. And the earth gets life after it had died. You know, when you see the earth without rain and you see a drought, what do you see? You see a dead land. You see all the plants look like they are, decayed and dried and crumbling. And then when the rain falls, those same plants that are looking dead and decayed and yellow and they look like they're dying and the leaves are falling off, they become green again and they come back to life again. And that earth that might have been, and I don't know if some of you have seen after it rains in a wadi, in a little, like a valley in the land is completely dry like a desert. And the rain falls in the wadi and the bottom of the wadi starts to be completely green, as though it had come to life again after it had died. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it from the masalih of the creation and the crops and likewise animals, that the rain is the thing that brings them back to life and brings them the benefits and brings them the life that they need. And the trees grow from it, the plants grow from it, and all of the different fruits that come out because of it. The wells become filled up with water again. The reservoirs, as we say today, because we usually don't provide out, we take our water from wells today, we take it from usually reservoirs, big pools of water. They fill back up again. And the sources of water within the earth fill up again, that allows us to take water for our needs. So there are a great many things that we need from water, and we need the rain to come. And even in this time of modern technology, and this time where we seem to be able to achieve so much with the things that Allah has given us in terms of the technology that we have, if any country or any place on the earth lacks rain, all of that technology and that ability, it all starts to fall down bit by bit by bit, to the point where all of the advancement that that place has and all of the way, the standard of living the people have, as soon as the water becomes less, you see the situation in that country become worse and the needs of the people become great. And that is why even in the countries in which the rain falls regularly. So if I give you an example of the UK is a place where we get a lot of rainfall. Even in the UK, when the rain doesn't fall quite as heavily, straight away they start banning things you can't do. You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't water your garden, you can't use this outside. You have to, they start banning various things, and certain things start to go, they start to be restricted, and there start to be restrictions on how you use your water. This is in a country where the water rains, it rains, it seems like it rains most of the days of the year. Probably not quite, but it's a country in which it seems like it rains all the time. And yet when it doesn't rain quite as much, they start having a lot of problems and a lot of issues and restrictions and difficulties for people. So what about the countries where it rains very rarely, like the Middle East, in the places where it rains very, very rarely? Subhanallah, it doesn't matter what level of advancement a country is in, as soon as a place, even if you look at some countries that are large, like the US and places like that, even if a particular state or a particular region doesn't get rain, the others can't do anything to help it. The people in that place, they start to suffer and they start to have difficulties and all sorts of problems in their life, even though the people may be 100 miles away in the same country, they have ample rain. So this is something that no matter where you reach in advancement and technology, you can't escape the fact that we are in desperate need of the rain to fall. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indicated this to us in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَرْسَلَ الرِّيَاحَ بُشْرًا بَيْنَ يَدَيْ رَحْمَتِهِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً طَهُورًا لِنُحْيِيَ بِهِ بَلْدَةً مَيْتًا وَنُسْقِيَهُ مِمَّا خَلَقْنَا أَنْعَامًا وَأَنَاسِيَّ كَثِيرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, He is the one who sent the wind as a bringer of glad tidings before His mercy comes, just before His mercy, meaning before the rain comes. So Allah named the rain in the ayah His rahmah. He named the rain His rahmah, because He said the wind, when it comes as a precursor, it comes as a bushra, telling you that the rahmah is about to come. And Allah said, and we sent down from the heavens ma'an tahura. This has a fiqh benefit in it, which is that the rainwater is tahir, mutahhir. The rainwater, it is pure in of itself, and you can use it to purify yourself. You can use it for wudu, you can use it for ghusl, you can use it to drink. That water that comes down, it is tahur. You can use it to purify yourself, and you can use it to drink and to benefit from. لِنُحْيَ بِهِ بَلْدَةً مَيْتًا, that we bring life through this rain to a dead land. وَنُسْقِيَهُ, and we give water to those that we have created, both the an'am, the cattle, and mankind, a great number of mankind. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَلَقَدْ صَرَّفْنَاهُ بَيْنَهُمْ لِيَذَّكَّرُوا, and we have distributed this rain among people so that they remember. We've distributed this rain, meaning the fact that there are some countries that get more of it and some countries that get less of it. And there are some people in certain times that get more and some people in other times that get less. لِيَذَّكَّرُوا, so that those people can remember. They can remember Allah. Those who get a lot of it, they can remember Allah by thanking Him and using it in the right way. And those who get little of it can remember Allah by asking Him and making dua for Him to give it to them. فَأَبَى أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ إِلَّا كُفُورًا, but most of the people refused except to be ungrateful and to disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ, in Surah Al-Dhariyat, ayah number 22, and in the heavens is your provision and what you have been promised. The scholars of tafsir, they said that the provision which is yours in the heavens is the rain. And what you have been promised is Jannah. Jannah is in the heavens, and that is what you have been promised. وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ, what you've been promised. And rizqukum, the provision of yours, your rizq which is in the heavens, is the rain that comes down to the earth. And that is why they said, الرِّزْقُ هُوَ الْمَطَرُ, the rizq is the rain, وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ al-Jannah, and what you've been promised is paradise. Even to the extent that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah, when He said, يَلْعَنُهُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَلْعَنُهُمُ اللَّاعِنُونَ, they are those that Allah cursed, and the people and others who curse them. Some of the scholars of tafsir, they said the people that cursed the disbelievers along with Allah were the animals who said that the rain did not come down because of you people. And so the animals cursed the people who caused the rain not to fall. Allah cursed them, and the people and those who cursed them. And they said the meaning of this are the animals and the insects who cursed the disobedient people from the sons of Adam. They say the only reason that the rain didn't fall is because of you people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that He sometimes withholds the rain in order that we taste some of the bad sins that we have done and we return to Allah in tawbah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لِيُذِيقَهُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, that we may make them taste some of the sins they have done, some of the effects of the sins. This is not the major effect. The fact that it didn't rain, this is not the big punishment. This is just a small punishment to remind you of what will come if you keep on disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like that. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, so that they may return back to Allah. And that is why the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith narrated by Imam Ibn Majah that no people fall short or are stingy with people in the balance and in the scales and the balances, or in the mikyal and the mizan. The mikyal are the volumes you fill up. So when you, for example, a liter or the measures of volume like that, like a liter or something like that, the people who, when they say they're selling you a liter, but they actually sell you 900 milliliters. Or the people who say this is a kilogram, but it's actually 900 grams. Those people who cheat the people in the weight and volume, the Prophet ﷺ said they're going to be afflicted by drought. And they're going to be afflicted by a lack of resources and a lack of, financial hardship. And by the oppression of the sultan. Three things. For the people who cheat others in volume and weight. Number one, drought. Number two, hardship, what in the hadith is called shiddat al-ma'una, like financial, or you can say like a lack of resources and hardship in those things, economic hardship maybe. وَجَوْرِ السُّلْطَانِ, and the oppression of the ruler against them. And the Prophet ﷺ said, and no people will prevent the zakah of their wealth except that they will be prevented the rain from the sky. And if it were not for the animals, it would not rain. No people prevent the zakah of their wealth except that they will be prevented from rain coming from the sky. And if it were not for the animals, it would not rain. So we have to understand that rain is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one who sent it down, and He is the one that can withhold it. And the Muslim is different from the non-Muslim when the rain is withheld. The Muslim, when the rain is withheld, turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seeks nearness to Allah and makes dua to Allah, knowing that Allah is qareebun mujib. Allah is near and Allah is going to answer. And this is the sunnah of the prophets alayhimus salatu wassalam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَإِذِ اسْتَسْقَى مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ فَقُلْ نَضْرِبْ بِعَصَاكَ الْحَجَرَ فَانْفَجَرَتْ مِنْهُ 12 عَيْنًا. When Musa made istisqa, he asked Allah for rain. When Musa prayed to Allah for rain, that tells us that from the sunnah that Musa established among his people was al-istisqa, to pray to Allah for rain. فَقُلْ نَضْرِبْ بِعَصَاكَ الْحَجَرَ. Then we said, strike with the stone your stick. Or strike the stone with your stick. فَانْفَجَرَتْ مِنْهُ 12 عَيْنًا. Then 12 springs gushed forth from the stone. And Sulaiman alayhi salam also made istisqa. He also prayed for rain, as is going to come in the ahadith. And likewise, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam prayed for rain. But as for the non-Muslims, they don't. This is not from their way, that when the rain is withheld, that they pray to Allah Azza wa Jal for rain. Either they pray to their idols or to their gods besides Allah, or they disbelieve in Allah completely in every way and they attribute the rain to environmental factors and things like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَلَوْلَا إِذْ جَاءَهُمْ بَأْسُنَا تَضَرَّعُوا وَلَكِنْ قَسَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَزَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. If it were only when the punishment from us would come, that they would return to Allah in submission, they would submit back to Allah, they would turn back to Allah, they would ask Allah, but their hearts became hard and the shaitan made it beautiful what they used to do. So you see the disbeliever increases in evil and distance from Allah when the rain is withheld from them. As for the believer increases in their connection with Allah and increases in their iman and increases in their dua and increases in their tawbah. So the believer gets nearer to Allah when the rain is held back. As for the disbeliever, the more the rain is held back, the further they go from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So some of them, they sacrifice to other than Allah. So the shaitan from the men and the jinn, they tell them to go to a certain place and to take a certain animal and to sacrifice that animal. And when they sacrifice that animal, the shaitan from the men and the jinn tell them, then the rain is going to come. And some of them are those who go to the graves and the shrines and they ask the dead to provide them rain when the rain doesn't come. And some of them are the atheists who say that the rain is completely a natural and environmental thing. Now, as Muslims, does that mean we don't believe in the way that the rain, you know, like they tell you, I forgot what they call it that cycle that goes around and they call it that? The water cycle, okay, that's the easy one. That the rain comes, the water comes up and then it makes a cloud. As Muslims, we don't have a problem with this. That's not the issue. As we said in the previous discussion when we talked about the sun and the moon eclipsing, the sun and the moon eclipse, and eclipse is where one of them gets in the way of the other. It's not like that's in terms of its physical nature. But in terms of the ultimate cause behind it, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is why, if it were purely environmental, just a case of 1 + 1 = 2, you would not see the changes in weather in the different places that you see now. So right now we are seeing this. And they're saying, you know, they put it down to a lot of factors, global warming and this thing, and this wind came from here and this thing came from here. But the result is it's raining in places that it never rained before, and there are droughts in places that there were never droughts before. That's the end result. That today we have countries where it's raining where it never rained before, or it never rained in that quantity before. And we have countries now that are experiencing drought that never experienced drought in recent times. These things change and there is no way of predicting where they're going to change. In the sense that you see sometimes that somebody is, it shouldn't be raining now, it shouldn't be snowing at this time of year, it shouldn't be cold at this time, it shouldn't be hot at this time. You see these things changing from place to place and time to time. And every few years, they change to a different place. And you see it rain in places where it was not supposed to rain. And there was no prediction that rain was going to come. And you see there be a drought in places where there was no prediction that a drought was going to occur. Wallahi, if it were purely down to these environmental factors, you would see that the people would have a solution for these places that are dying with droughts and things like that. But what you see is this is in the hands of Allah. Even when they take up, you know, some people said, well, what about now they fly a plane into the sky with some water in it and they release the water and the water makes a cloud and then it rains. When this is one cloud out of one plane, if you send 50 into the sky, you will not get the same as what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you. This is not the same thing. This is only the same thing in minds of people who don't take heed from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. It's not the same thing that you fly a plane into the sky and you let out some water and then the water falls down to the ground. Because ultimately in a drought, I can take a cup of water and go to the top of my apartment building and tip it onto the floor and the water can fall upon somebody. But that's not the rain that brings life to the land. And that's why no matter how many planes they send up, they can't bring that life back to the land. They can give people a small relief, maybe in one small place or for one small tiny group of people, but they can't bring the earth to life like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does. And the way that Allah makes it rain, those people cannot make it rain like that, no matter how many balloons they send up or planes they send up into the sky. So as Muslims, we don't reject that there is a natural cycle of water rising up into the sky and forming clouds and coming down. We don't reject that. The Sunnah doesn't tell us to reject it, and the Quran doesn't tell us. In fact, the opposite, the Quran tells us about the rain clouds that come together and how they form and how the rain falls. But the Quran tells us that this happens by the command of Allah Azza wa Jal, and if Allah wishes to withhold it from a people, He will withhold it. Even if they were in places where it's supposed to rain every day. If Allah wished to withhold it from them, He would withhold it from them. And in the places where it's never supposed to rain for long periods of time, if Allah wishes for it to rain there, it would rain there. And we've seen this in our own lives. If a person was to study it and think about it and look at the reports, you would see many, many examples of this that would give truth to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or would increase you in faith of the truth of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, that the rain is in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal, and He gives it to whoever He wills. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about this in Surah Al-Sajdah in ayah number 27. أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا أَنَّا نَسُوقُ الْمَاءَ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ الْجُرُزِ فَنُخْرِجُ بِهِ زَرْعًا تَأْكُلُ مِنْهُ أَنْعَامُهُمْ وَأَنفُسُهُم أَفَلَا يُبْصِرُونَ. Do they not see that we drive the water, the clouds come, and that we drive the water to the dead land, the land that is barren and dead. This is land where it doesn't rain. Otherwise, if it rained all the time, that land would not be barren and dead. It's barren and dead because it hasn't rained there for a very long time. And so we bring from that rain crops from which your cattle eat and you yourselves eat. Will you not then see? And there are also a people who attach the rain to the stars. And this is mentioned in a very famous hadith, because this is from the aqidah of the people of Jahiliyyah, the belief of the people prior to Islam. That the people from Quraysh, many of them prior to Islam, used to believe that the rain is dependent upon the stars, that the stars are the ones that bring the rain. And that is why in the hadith it is mentioned that Allah Azza wa Jal said that last night some of you became believers in me and some of you became disbelievers in me. Whoever said it rained by the grace of Allah and His mercy. Mutirna bifadlillahi wa rahmatih. And that's what you say when the rain falls. Mutirna bifadlillahi wa rahmatih. The rain fell by the grace of Allah and His mercy. He is a believer in me and a disbeliever in the stars. And whoever said that the rain fell because of this star or that star, he is a disbeliever in me and a believer in the stars. So we know that from the belief of the people of Jahiliyyah prior to Islam are those people who said that the rain fell because of such and such a star, or made dua or worship of the stars in order for the rain to fall. But as a Muslim, while the rain is falling, we say, Allahumma sayyiban nafi'a, or Allah make it a beneficial rain. Because there is a rain which is a punishment, which is like when they say, Allahumma suqya rahma, la suqya adhabin, wala hadmin, wala gharaq. Or Allah make it a rain that is merciful, don't make it a rain that is a punishment, or destroys everything, and it destroys the buildings like a flood, and doesn't cause people to drown. That's why from the things that we ask Allah when the rain falls is, oh Allah, don't make it, oh Allah, make this rain a mercy, don't make it a punishment or a destruction or drowning. Because this is how some people, the rain falls upon them and their houses become destroyed. The rain falls upon them and their property becomes destroyed, or their animals are killed, and so on. Or the rain falls upon them and they drown, and the floods come, and so on. So we ask Allah not to make it a rain of punishment. And we say, Allahumma sayyiban nafi'a, or Allah make it a beneficial rain. But after the rain has fallen, and we see that the rain fell, and we go outside and there's rain, we say, mutirna bifadlillahi wa rahmatih. The rain fell by the grace of Allah and His mercy. So that we don't become from those people who disbelieve in Allah but believe in the stars. Or disbelieve in Allah but believe in Mother Nature, like they say. Or disbelieve in Allah but believe in the graves and the shrines. Or disbelieve in Allah but believe in the jinn and the shayateen. And these are all things that exist. The rain is one of those things where you see a lot of shirkiyat, a lot of actions which are polytheistic, people praying to other than Allah, sacrificing to other than Allah, making dua to other than Allah. You see a lot of polytheistic beliefs as it relates to the rain. And that's why, as Muslims, this is why, and the whole discussion here has been about why it is that we have istisqa. The reason we have a prayer for rain is to make us different from the non-Muslims. Because the non-Muslims, when the rain falls, they fall into anwa' al-shirk, different types of polytheism. Whether it be belief in the stars, in the horoscopes, in Mother Nature, in the jinn and the shayateen, in the graves and the shrines, but lots of different beliefs that people have. But we as Muslims differentiate ourselves from those people by having something which we call istisqa, asking Allah or praying to Allah for the rain to come. Praying to Allah Azza wa Jal for the rain to come. And we're going to cover our first hadith. We're not going to go on too long. Maybe after this hadith, if the explanation takes too long, we can stop. If we have time, we can do the next one. وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أنه قال خرج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم متواضعا متبذلا متخشعا مترسلا متضرعا فصلى ركعتين كما يصلي في العيد ولم يخطب خطبتكم هذه رواه الخمسة وصححه الترمذي وأبو عوانة وابن حبان. That's what I think it should be. ولم يخطب خطبتكم هذه. That's what you have. لم. ولم يخطب خطبتكم هذه. That's what it should be. From Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما أنه قال, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم went out متواضعا, in a state of humility. So this is describing how the Prophet ﷺ left his home and went out to pray the prayer for rain. He went out mutawadi'a, in a state of humility, of humbleness. He didn't go out like you would go out to meet a group of your friends. You go out, you're happy, you're energetic, you're smiling, you're walking along. He went in a state of humility. Like you are going for the prayer, like you're in a state of prayer. I'm not to describe a particular way, but you imagine, your head is down, you're in a state of humility, in a state of lowliness. Mutabadhila, meaning wearing clothes which were not adorned, wearing simple clothes. He wouldn't go out in his finery for istisqa. The Prophet ﷺ himself didn't have a lot of finery. He had one cloak that he would wear when the delegations would come. That was all of the finery that I remember from the hadith, is that he had a cloak that he would wear when the delegations would come, when the different people from the towns and the cities would come to visit him. He would have a cloak that was, to wear, which he would wear, like it was an adornment. But he wouldn't go out in a state of adornment. And that's different from the regular salah. Because the regular salah, you go out in your adornment. Allah Azza wa Jal said, خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ عِنْدَ كُلِّ masjid. Take your adornment to every masjid. Meaning when you go to the masjid, you go in the best clothes that you can. You don't go in your old clothes if you can. Again, not everybody has a choice. Because we are wrong to think that people have a choice. The Prophet ﷺ, he said to some of the Sahaba, is it the case that all of you have two thawbs? This is a very profound hadith. أَوَلِكُلِّكُمْ ثَوْبَانِ. Do you all have two thawbs? Some of the Sahaba only had one piece of material, that's all they owned. Not all of them had something for their bottom and something for their top. Some of them, they just had one piece, they had to wrap it around the bottom and the top at the same time. Because they only owned one piece of clothing. But presuming that somebody has nice clothing and simple clothing, generally you wear your adornment to the masjid. That's why we dislike the brothers when they get up for Fajr and they come to the Fajr prayer in their sleeping clothes. This is not befitting for the masjid. We're not going to say that your prayer is not accepted, we're just going to say it's not befitting. لا ينبغي. It's not appropriate for a person to come to the masjid in their sleeping clothes or their playing clothes or whatever. خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ عِنْدَ كُلِّ masjid. Wear your adornment at every masjid. However, for the Salatul Istisqa, you go in simple clothing. Again, it's not like you're wearing your sleeping clothes, but you go in simple clothing. You don't go in your finery, your nicest clothing, and you have your nice, cloak on top and everything, like your nice watch on, your Rolex on the wrist and whatever. You don't go out to the Salatul Istisqa like this. You go to Salatul Istisqa in very simple clothing, showing your need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mutakhashshi'a. Mutakhashshi'a, it comes from the word khushu', having khushu'. And the Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan hafidhahullah ta'ala, he said in Sharh, fi qalbihi wa basarihi wa jismihi. His heart and his eyes and his body were in a state of khushu', meaning al-dhul, he's lowering himself, humbling himself before Allah in his heart, first of all. Because there's no point walking out with your head down and your eyes on the floor if your heart is full of pride. So he would come out and his heart would be in a state of khushu'. His eyes would be in a state of khushu'. Like we said, it's not like you're going out to play with your friends and you're happy and running around, and you're in a state of khushu'. Your eyes are on the floor. Your head is lowered. Your heart is turning to Allah. And your body also. You don't, وَلَا تَمْشِي فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا. Don't walk on the earth with pride and haughtiness, as though you own the earth. You're going out to beg Allah for rain. You're not going out that I own this place and this is all mine, and you swing in your arms like like you own it. It's not like that. You go out in a state of al-dhul, a state of lowering yourself and a state of submissiveness. Mutarassila. This means when you walk slowly and humbly. The opposite is musta'jila. When you're musta'jil, you're running, you're rushing, you're pacing, walking really quickly. And generally, the Prophet ﷺ, when he would walk quickly, as though he was walking from an incline. When you walk downhill, you walk quickly, right? You usually go downhill quickly. That's how the Prophet ﷺ used to walk on a flat, as if he was walking downhill. He wasn't rushing because that was his natural pace, but he was a very fast walker. His companions used to have to rush to keep up with him. He had very fast walking, but it didn't have takalluf in it, meaning it wasn't hard. It wasn't like he was pacing like he's trying to race somebody. It was just his natural pace was very fast. But they said that when istisqa would come, he would make small steps. He would not make big strides like usual. He would walk with small steps and he would walk slowly, as though in a state of someone who is begging, someone who is in need. ثُمَّ صَلَّى رَكَعَتَيْنِ كَصَلَاةِ الْعِيدِ. Then he would pray 2 raka'at like the Eid prayer. Like the Eid prayer in 3 things. Like the Eid prayer in 3 things. The place and the time and the description of the prayer. So you pray like the Eid prayer in 3 things. In the place, meaning that istisqa ideally should be carried out in the musalla, not in the masjid. If you do it in the masjid, it's completely valid, just like Eid is valid in the masjid. However, if you can go out to the musalla, then this is the sunnah, to go out to the musalla. In the time, you pray istisqa at the same time that you pray Eid, meaning when the sun has risen to the height of a spear. Because we know when the sun breaks the horizon, you can't pray at that time until the sun has risen the height of a spear. And in the sifa, the same way you pray Eid, the same style of prayer that you pray for Eid, the same way that you pray Eid, you pray istisqa in the same way. وَلَمْ يَخْطُبْ خُطْبَتَكُمْ هَذِهِ. Meaning that the Prophet ﷺ prayed a single, he gave a khutbah, but it was not the khutbah like the khutbah of Eid. So here Ibn Abbas is distinguishing between the khutbah, the prayer of Eid, and the khutbah of Eid. As for the Eid prayer, then istisqa is the same as the Eid prayer. You pray it the same way you pray Eid. But as for the khutbah, it's not the same way that you give the khutbah for Eid. Meaning that it's only a single khutbah. It's only a single khutbah. It's not two, like one and sit and stand, it's only two. So why did Ibn Abbas say, وَلَمْ يَخْطُبْ خُطْبَتَكُمْ? Why did he say he didn't do your khutbah? Why did he not say he didn't do two khutbah or he didn't do the Eid khutbah? Why did he say he didn't do this khutbah of yours? He didn't do this khutbah of yours because the people in the time of Ibn Abbas, they did the istisqa khutbah the same way that they did the khutbah for Eid. And when Ibn Abbas saw them going away from the sunnah, he told them, وَلَمْ يَخْطُبْ خُطْبَتَكُمْ هَذِي. He didn't make this khutbah that you are making now. The way that you people are doing it now, that's not how he did it. He did it with one khutbah, and also it wasn't a khutbah of wa'af and tadhkir. It wasn't a khutbah of admonition and reminder like the Jum'ah or like the Eid khutbah. It was more, it had some tadhkir, it had some reminder, but it was more a khutbah of dua and encouraging the people to repent to Allah and making dua to Allah. It wasn't a khutbah of, like they say, al-wa'af, like admonition, like Jum'ah. You know, you have a topic. Like, for example, your topic in Jum'ah, it might be keeping ties with the relatives. So you give a khutbah all about keeping the ties, and you bring the ayat, and you bring a hadith, and then you say to the people, you have to keep ties with your relatives. That khutbah we don't give for istisqa. Istisqa is more of a khutbah of dua and turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the other ahadith that are going to come, we're going to hear that the Prophet ﷺ after that would turn to face the Qibla, and he would turn over his clothing. That means any clothing that can be turned inside out. There are some clothing that cannot be turned inside out. But any clothing you are wearing that can be turned inside out while you're in the masjid, that is what you do. When the Imam turns around, so for example, if the Imam is wearing a bisht, like a cloak, he can just turn the cloak around and put the left arm through the right arm and the right arm through the left arm. And then the inner part of the cloak will be showing on the outside, and the outside of the cloak will be showing on the inside. A jacket would be the same. You could take your jacket and you pull it inside out and you wear it inside out. So the inside of the jacket is showing on the outside, and the outside of the jacket is on the inside. And your right arm is where your left arm would be, and your left arm is where your right arm would be. And the significance behind that is you're asking Allah to change your situation. Just like you changed the right to the left and the left to the right and the inside to the outside, then likewise you're asking Allah to change the dryness and the drought into water and into the life and the plants and the animals and so on. We're going to come to that in the following hadith, but we're not going to do it today because we've done enough by now. There are some masail in this that we just want to go over. The first is that istisqa is prayed in the musalla ideally. If you pray it in the masjid, it's valid, but the sunnah is to pray it in the musalla of Eid, to go to the Eid musalla. The second issue is that you don't go out to istisqa beautified or dressed up like you would, for example, for Eid. It's the opposite of Eid in that way, right? In Eid, you wear your nicest new clothes and you go out. In istisqa, you wear very simple clothing, you don't adorn yourself, you don't wear any decoration or anything like that. And you go out in a state of khushu' and inkisar, like you're broken before Allah, like someone who is broken, like, you know, when we say your spirit is broken, you go out not in a state of despair, but in a state of completely submitting yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because this is more likely to bring about acceptance of your dua. The third issue is that the istisqa is the same as the Eid prayer in the timing and in the place and in the way that you pray it. And this is the opinion of the vast majority of the scholars, as opposed to a few who said that there is no salah for istisqa, it's only dua. However, the opinion of the jamahir, yani the overwhelming majority of the scholars, is that istisqa has a prayer and the prayer is the same as Eid. The fourth is that this hadith contains the permissibility, or contains that the khutbah should be given for istisqa, and that this khutbah should be the khutbah the Prophet ﷺ gave, similar to how he gave. It shouldn't be a khutbah that is different from the way that he used to give it. And it shouldn't be a khutbah which is focused on a topic which you deliver. Rather, it should be closer to being a khutbah of dua and turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fifth point in the hadith is that the salah is before the khutbah. The same as Eid. The salah is before the khutbah. And we're going to talk about the difference of opinion among the scholars in this at a later time. So that concludes this particular hadith. We're not going to go into the next one, the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, because it's very long. It's about a page in length, and the explanation is several pages. So we're inshallah going to stop there. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een.